Art has the power to change lives, but sometimes, it takes more than creativity to transform a world. Meet James Walker, a gifted glass artist whose journey through love, betrayal, and personal loss led him to create more than just sculptures. He created a movement. In a world where fame and fortune often take precedence over artistry, James found himself caught in the battle between authenticity and exploitation. This is the story of how one man turned his heartbreak into art, and how his courage to fight for artistic integrity forever reshaped the industry he once thought would destroy him. Join us as we dive into a tale of betrayal, redemption, and the unbreakable spirit of an artist. This is the legacy of James Walker. James Walker is a glass artist known for his intricate sculptures and delicate designs. For years, his work has been his sanctuary, a place where he can lose himself in the art. He and his wife, Claire, live in a picturesque cottage on the outskirts of a quiet town, where James finds peace in the routine of his craft. However, he begins to notice subtle changes in Claire's demeanor. Her warm smiles are less frequent, and her conversations have grown more distant. The silence between them speaks volumes, and James can't help but feel something isn't right. One evening, while working late in his studio, James overhears a conversation between Claire and a man named Peter. His heart sinks as he listens in on their conversation. Claire is confessing to an affair with Peter, a wealthy art collector who has shown interest in James' work. James is crushed, but he decides to investigate further. As he digs through Claire's messages and emails, the evidence becomes undeniable. His suspicions are confirmed, and a feeling of betrayal consumes him. He installs hidden cameras around their house, hoping to uncover more about Claire's secret life. As James reviews the footage from his hidden cameras, the betrayal deepens. Claire and Peter are not only having an affair, but they are also scheming to use James' art to boost Peter's reputation in the art world. Peter has been commissioning James to create exclusive pieces, all while planning to sell them for enormous profits without giving James his due credit. James feels not only betrayed by his wife but also exploited by the very man who admired his work. James is consumed by anger and hurt, but instead of confronting Claire directly, he decides to take matters into his own hands. He confides in his old friend, Alex, who works as an art dealer. Together, they gather evidence of Peter's intentions to manipulate the market using James' art, making sure that when the time comes, Peter's reputation will be destroyed. They track Peter's investments and connections, ready to expose his schemes. James confronts Peter at a high-profile art exhibition where one of his glass sculptures is displayed. The tension is palpable. James expresses his fury, calling Peter out for his deceit and manipulation. Peter, confident in his power and influence, mocks James, assuring him that his money and connections will protect him from any consequences. But James isn't intimidated. He has a plan, and it's about to unfold. Days later, Peter is found dead, the victim of a mysterious and violent attack. The authorities quickly suspect foul play, and James becomes the prime suspect due to his earlier confrontation with Peter. Claire, in an attempt to protect herself, begins to turn on James, subtly shifting the blame onto him, all while trying to distance herself from any involvement. She claims she had no knowledge of Peter's manipulations and tries to salvage her own reputation. As the investigation unfolds, Alex uncovers a shocking twist. Peter's ex-wife, Vanessa, who had been devastated by Peter's treatment of her, emerges as the true killer. She had been quietly plotting her revenge for years, knowing that Peter had used and discarded her just as he had with everyone else in his life. Vanessa's meticulous planning finally paid off when she took matters into her own hands and ended Peter's reign of manipulation. James is exonerated, his name cleared of any suspicion. However, his marriage with Claire is beyond repair. The trust that was broken can never be rebuilt. Claire, realizing that her own actions have led to her downfall, leaves James, and he begins the painful process of moving on. He starts a new chapter in his life, focusing solely on his art. Drawing inspiration from the betrayal and the emotional turmoil he endured, James creates a series of glass sculptures symbolizing destruction and rebirth. His work becomes a powerful statement of his healing journey. James also becomes an advocate for artists, creating a foundation to protect young creatives from the kind of exploitation he faced. He mentors up-and-coming glass artists, ensuring they are aware of the dangers of the art world and how to navigate it without losing their integrity. A year later, James hosts a gala to showcase his new collection. The event is a success, and James feels a sense of accomplishment. He has come full circle, from the pain of betrayal to a place of strength and self-awareness. As he stands at the center of the room, reflecting on his journey, Claire unexpectedly appears. She looks at him with a mixture of regret and longing, but James is no longer affected by her presence. He has healed, and the past no longer holds any power over him. With a smile, he turns toward the future, ready to embrace whatever comes next, free from the shadows of betrayal. In the weeks following the gala, James is still grappling with the emotional aftermath of his marriage's collapse. His art, which had become his sanctuary, now feels hollow. The sculptures he creates, though intricate and beautiful, no longer feel as personal. It's as though his connection to his craft has been severed, much like his connection to Claire. The quiet solitude of his studio has turned from a place of creation to one of loneliness. He spends hours staring at his work, wondering if he'll ever feel the same passion for it again. Alex, who has been a steady friend throughout James' struggles, encourages him to take a break and travel. "You've been through a storm, man," Alex says one day over coffee. "You need to find yourself again, outside of all this. Get away. Let the world show you something new. Maybe even the art." Reluctantly, James agrees. He books a ticket to the Pacific Northwest, hoping that a change of scenery might help him rediscover his spark. James spends weeks traveling through coastal towns, visiting galleries, and speaking to other artists about their work. In a small, tucked-away town, he meets an elderly glassblower named Henry, who has been creating art for over 60 years. Henry's glass pieces are rougher, more abstract, and full of emotion. Perfection's overrated, Henry tells James one evening as they sit in his humble studio, watching the flames from the furnace dance in the dim light. Art isn't about making something perfect. It's about showing the scars, the rough edges. Those are the real stories. Henry's words strike a chord with James. He realizes that the journey through his pain, his betrayal, and his loss are not obstacles to be buried but are instead the very essence of his artistic expression. He returns home with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to create pieces that reflect his journey of healing, pain, and personal transformation. Back in his studio, James begins to work on a new collection, one that tells the story of glass as a symbol of fragility and strength. His pieces incorporate raw, jagged edges, cracks filled with gold, and incomplete shapes that still manage to stand tall and beautiful. He calls the series Shattered Glass, a tribute to his own brokenness and the strength he found in rebuilding himself. The series generates immediate interest, but not in the way James expects. His new work is met with mixed reactions from the traditional art community. Some critics are baffled by the unconventional approach, while others embrace it as a raw and honest representation of human experience. James knows this is a turning point for him. He has stopped trying to please others and is now creating art that speaks to his soul. One evening, a prominent art curator, Maria, visits James' studio to see the Shattered Glass collection. Maria, an influential figure in the art world, is intrigued by the pieces. She recognizes the power behind them and immediately proposes an exclusive exhibition. James, who had once feared rejection, is now welcomed with open arms. His work is celebrated as a daring exploration of vulnerability and strength. Months later, just as James is beginning to thrive once again, Claire reappears. She reaches out to him, her voice hesitant and full of regret. She admits that she made a huge mistake, and while she understands it's too late to fix their marriage, she asks if they can find some form of peace. "I've changed, James," she says in a message. "I've realized what I had with you, and I can't undo it. But I don't want to live with the guilt anymore. Can we talk?" James is initially reluctant to meet with her. He has found his own peace, and the scars of their past are not something he wishes to revisit. But after some contemplation, he agrees to a meeting, wanting closure on his own terms. They sit in a small cafe in the town where they used to live. The conversation is difficult, and emotions run high as Claire recounts her mistakes and admits her affair was a way of escaping her own fears and insecurities. "I was so scared of losing you," she says, her voice trembling. "But I ended up losing everything." James listens, but his heart no longer aches in the same way. He has forgiven her, but the pain of what they lost has shaped who he is now. "I've moved on, Claire," he says softly. "And I think you need to too." Claire nods, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And I'll never forget you." The meeting brings no dramatic reconciliation, but it brings peace to both of them. They part ways quietly, each having found a sense of closure in their own journey. As James' exhibition approaches, Alex, who has always been his friend and confidant, reveals something unexpected. "I've been talking to some people in the art world," Alex admits one evening. "And there's something I need to tell you. Peter wasn't the only one who tried to exploit your work. There were others, other dealers and collectors who tried to take advantage of your talents. I didn't want you to know, but it seems like a lot of people were watching you." James feels a surge of anger, but it quickly transforms into a sense of empowerment. He realizes that he was not just a victim in this world, he was a force to be reckoned with. His work had drawn attention for a reason, and now, he had the power to control his own destiny. Together with Alex, James forms a new network of artists and dealers who operate with integrity, promoting fair practices and protecting young, emerging artists from exploitation. James begins to give back, teaching his art to those who have been marginalized or overlooked by the mainstream art world. As the years go by, James' reputation continues to grow. His work is displayed in galleries worldwide, and he becomes known not only for his innovative glass art but also for his advocacy in the art world. He continues to mentor young artists and speaks out against the pressures of commercialization in art. He never marries again, finding fulfillment in his work and in his role as a mentor and protector of other creatives. His art continues to evolve, telling stories of resilience, beauty, and transformation. In his final years, as James reflects on the life he's built, he realizes that it was the pain, the betrayal, and the heartbreak that gave him the strength to break free from the chains of the past. He has created something far more meaningful than any physical sculpture. He has created a legacy of hope for those who dare to find beauty in the brokenness of life. James' final exhibit, entitled Rebirth from the Ashes, becomes a testament to his journey, his healing, and his refusal to let the world define his worth. In the end, he has sculpted not just glass, but a life that is uniquely his own, a life built from the shards of the past into something truly remarkable. And with that, James walks off into the sunset, knowing that his story, like his art, will never truly have an end. Years after his Rebirth from the Ashes exhibition, James begins to notice something unsettling in the art world. The very community he helped to protect is starting to fracture. Emerging artists, whom he mentored, are now facing the same pressures and exploitation he once endured. He sees young talent being manipulated by the same powerful art dealers and curators who sought to profit from his own work years earlier. One particular artist, Maya, a talented glass sculptor with a unique vision, comes to James for help. "They want to own me," she says with frustration. "They don't care about my art, they only care about making money off of me. It feels like a repeat of what you went through." James sees in Maya the same passion and raw talent he had in his younger years, and it stirs something deep inside him. He realizes that the work he has done to change the art world is only a small part of a much larger battle. While he's made strides, the system that once tried to exploit him is still alive and well. It's a battle he never truly finished, but now, he's ready to take on the art world once more, not just for himself, but for the next generation. Determined to make a lasting change, James begins to organize a new initiative, a collective of artists, curators, and dealers who are committed to fair practices, ethical standards, and promoting authenticity over profit. He calls it the Artists' Alliance, and it becomes a movement designed to protect the integrity of art and artists. The alliance attracts a diverse group of people, including famous artists, gallery owners, and activists. Maya becomes one of the leading voices in the movement, speaking passionately about the importance of creative freedom. As the movement grows, it faces resistance from the establishment. Powerful figures in the art world, many of whom have profited from exploiting young artists, begin to fight back, using their influence to discredit the alliance and James personally. Despite the growing opposition, James feels more alive than ever. This fight, he realizes, is not just about protecting artists, it's about changing the culture of an entire industry that has for too long prioritized greed over creativity. Just as the alliance begins to gain traction, James faces a shocking betrayal. Alex, his longtime friend and confidant, who had been by his side through thick and thin, turns against him. James is blindsided when Alex begins publicly supporting some of the very art dealers who were part of the exploitative system James had fought to dismantle. At a press conference, Alex defends the practices of these dealers, arguing that the art world is a business and that the financial success of artists should be prioritized over ideological concerns. He claims that James' approach is naive and impractical, risking the livelihoods of many artists in the process. "You can't change the system, James," Alex says coldly during the press conference. "It's bigger than you. It's bigger than all of us. You're just going to hurt people in the end." James is devastated by the betrayal, feeling the sting of the loss of a friend he considered a brother. The public fallout is intense. People who had once supported him begin to question his judgment, wondering if Alex, a trusted ally, might be right. The alliance faces its first major crisis, and James' resolve is shaken. The betrayal weighs heavily on James. He retreats from the public eye for a period, withdrawing to his studio and reflecting on his choices. He wonders if Alex's words have some truth to them. Is the art world really as corrupt as he believes? Can the alliance truly make a difference, or is he just fighting an uphill battle? During this time of self-doubt, Maya reaches out to him. "You're not the only one who's faced this, James," she says. "We're all dealing with these pressures. You've shown us what's possible. We can't give up now." Her words stir something deep inside him. He realizes that it's not just about changing the system, it's about showing others that they have the power to change it too. The movement he started was never about him. It was always about creating a ripple effect, a shift in perspective that could be passed on from one artist to another, one generation to the next. With renewed determination, James emerges from his self-imposed isolation. He rebuilds the alliance, this time focusing on grassroots efforts and empowering young artists to lead the charge. He steps aside from the spotlight, allowing Maya and other emerging artists to take center stage in the movement. As the Artists' Alliance gains momentum, it begins to disrupt the established order in the art world. Major dealers and collectors, threatened by the alliance's influence, mount a campaign to discredit James and his supporters. They try to brand James as a radical, someone who is destroying the art market. But James is no longer interested in fighting for approval or recognition. He is fighting for something far more important, the preservation of artistic integrity. In a final confrontation at a high-profile art gala, James faces off against one of the most powerful figures in the industry, Victor Haynes, an influential art dealer who represents many of the top artists in the world. Victor attempts to publicly smear James, questioning his credibility and the legitimacy of the alliance. But James, standing tall and unwavering, responds with a speech that echoes his own journey: "Art is not a commodity. It is a voice that belongs to the artist, not to the highest bidder." The speech sends shockwaves through the art community. It inspires a new wave of support for the Artists' Alliance, and more artists and dealers begin to sign up for the movement. The event becomes a turning point, marking the beginning of a shift in the industry. Years pass, and James slowly fades into the background, his work becoming iconic in the art world. The Artists' Alliance continues to grow, with Maya now leading the charge. James watches as the next generation of artists rises up, their voices stronger than ever, and their work more unapologetically authentic. James' own work evolves too. His pieces, once filled with the raw pain of betrayal and loss, now carry a message of resilience and hope. His glass sculptures are celebrated not just for their technical brilliance but for the stories they tell, stories of healing, of change, and of the unbreakable spirit of the artist. At a final exhibition dedicated to his legacy, James gives one last speech. "This is not my victory," he says, his voice filled with emotion. "This is all of ours. The art world belongs to the artists. And we have finally taken it back." As the last of the exhibition's visitors leave, Maya stands by his side, looking at the collection of pieces James has created over the years. She smiles, knowing that the torch has been passed. The work is far from over, but the foundation James built will continue to shape the future of art for generations to come. And so, James Walker, the glass artist who turned his pain into power, fades into history, not as a martyr, but as a symbol of the artist's ability to break free, to reclaim their voice, and to reshape the world around them. As time passes, James becomes a quiet legend in the art world. He is no longer a name that the public associates with controversy or scandal, but rather with transformative change. His sculptures are now revered, not just for their aesthetic beauty but for their emotional depth, capturing a journey that transcends personal pain and speaks to the human experience at large. In the final years of his life, James begins to work on one last project, a piece that will encapsulate everything he has learned and fought for over the years. This sculpture, more than any other, will be his legacy, a symbol of rebirth, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the artist. He begins working on a massive installation, a glass tree, its branches stretching toward the sky, with cracks running through the glass filled with gold leaf. The tree's trunk is fractured but whole, a representation of how something broken can still reach for the light. The project consumes him, and in the solitude of his studio, he works tirelessly, meticulously crafting each piece. The tree grows in his studio, filling the space with light and shadow as its glass leaves shimmer in the daylight. It is a labor of love, and James knows that this is the last chapter in his artistic career. One day, as the piece nears completion, Maya visits him in the studio. She stands silently, taking in the sculpture. "It's beautiful," she whispers, her voice filled with awe. "It's everything you've fought for." James looks at the tree, a smile tugging at his lips. "It's not just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone who ever struggled, who ever fought to find their voice. It belongs to all of us." Maya nods, understanding the depth of his words. She has taken the mantle of leadership in the Artists' Alliance, and under her guidance, the movement has flourished. But the impact of James' vision is still felt in everything they do. James' health, once strong, begins to deteriorate as the years take their toll. He no longer has the same energy he once did, and his hands, though still steady, begin to ache more with each passing day. He knows that his time is coming, and although it is not easy to let go, he feels at peace. He has created a legacy that will live on through his work and through the countless artists he has mentored and inspired. One quiet evening, Maya visits him in his studio one last time. James is sitting in front of the tree sculpture, his hands resting on the cool glass, the work finally complete. The light from the setting sun casts long shadows across the room, and for the first time in years, James feels at peace with everything. "You've done more than anyone could have imagined," Maya says softly, sitting beside him. James turns to her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "It's not about what I did. It's about what we all do, together. I just help to show the way." The two sit in silence for a while, watching the light shift across the sculpture. The room is filled with a quiet sense of accomplishment, of things well done, of battles fought and won. As the evening draws to a close, James speaks his final words to Maya. "Take care of it all. Keep pushing. Don't let the world change what we've built. Keep the fire alive. Maya nods, tears brimming in her eyes, but she knows that James' work will continue. He has given her more than just mentorship, he has given her a vision. And with that, she promises to carry it forward. Later that night, James falls asleep peacefully, his journey complete. He passes away quietly in his sleep, surrounded by the art he had created and the legacy he had shaped. James' passing is mourned by the art world, but his death is not the end of his influence. The Artists' Alliance continues to thrive under Maya's leadership, spreading across the globe. Artists everywhere now have a voice, and the principles of integrity, fairness, and artistic freedom James championed have become cornerstones of the art world. Maya oversees a grand exhibition to honor James' life and work. The exhibit features shattered glass, his later pieces, and, of course, the iconic tree sculpture. As visitors walk through the gallery, they are taken on a journey through James' entire career, from his early work to the pieces that reflected his pain and healing, to the art that marked his final triumph. The tree sculpture, now a centerpiece of the exhibition, is placed in a large, open space. It towers over the gallery, its branches stretching toward the ceiling. People stand in awe before it, taking in its beauty, its imperfections, and its strength. During the opening night of the exhibition, Maya gives a speech in honor of James. James Walker was not just an artist, he was a visionary. His work spoke of resilience, of healing, of the power of breaking free from the past. He taught us that art isn't just about creating beauty, it's about creating change. And through his work, he changed the world. The crowd applauds, and Maya feels the weight of James' legacy in her heart. It is a legacy that will never fade, that will continue to inspire and shape the future of art for generations to come. As the exhibition closes, Maya stands before the tree sculpture, running her hand gently along one of its glass branches. She feels a sense of connection to James, as though his spirit lives on in the art, in the movement, and in the countless artists he touched. The legacy of James Walker, the glass artist who turned his pain into power, will never be forgotten. Years later, James' work is still revered, but more importantly, the ideals he championed have become foundational to how art is perceived and valued. New generations of artists grow up knowing they are not just creating to sell or to satisfy an audience, but to express something deeper, to give voice to their experiences. James' name is etched into the history of the art world not as a man who struggled and failed, but as a man who transformed his suffering into a powerful force for good. His influence is felt not only through the art that hangs on gallery walls but also through the systems he helped create to protect the rights of artists. Maya, now an influential curator and advocate, continues to lead the Artists' Alliance with unwavering dedication. Each year, she hosts a gala in James' memory, a celebration of the ongoing fight for artistic integrity and freedom. And each year, as the gala winds down, she takes a moment to stand before the tree sculpture, her mind filled with gratitude and determination. James' voice, his spirit, and his art live on. The story of James Walker is not one of endings, but of new beginnings, a reminder that even in the most fragile forms, beauty and strength can be found. And though the glass may break, it can always be mended, filled with gold, and made stronger than before. James Walker's journey was a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of an artist's spirit, and the incredible impact one person can have on an entire world. His art, like his life, was full of cracks, but those cracks became the very thing that made him whole. Now, as his legacy lives on through the Artists' Alliance and the countless artists he inspired, we're reminded that no matter how broken we may feel, there's always room for rebirth. What do you think of James' story? What parts of his journey resonated with you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, we'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more inspiring stories of artists and the power of creativity, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, remember, art can change the world, one piece at a time.